Hello, dear friends and colleagues. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that's always been very important to me, and those of you who know me know that I constantly mention it everywhere I can. The issue is we as interpreters are a profession or are we an industry? And this might seem like not very important, but indeed it is extremely important because it helps us approach our attitude in our profession in a much different way depending on who do you think you are. So let's start by clarifying what an interpreter does and then what an industry is and what a profession is. As interpreters, as you know, what we are is that we are cultural and language brokers that allow people to communicate when they don't share the same language. It implies studies, it implies preparation, it implies getting ready for the event, and it implies delivering your knowledge, your experience, and your skill so that this communication can really happen. So, with that said, let's look at the definitions of industry and profession. And to this point, I will refer to the Webster Dictionary. And Webster tells us clearly when it talks about industry that an industry is a department or branch of a craft, art, business, or manufacture, especially one that employs a large personnel and capital, especially in manufacturing, doing things such as systematic labor for some usual purpose and the creation of something of value. So we clearly here see that an industry implies a big operation, it implies a large personnel and a capital, especially in something that is mass production. That is an industry, and that's how we have always understood industry. At least that's how I've always thought of industry when it's brought up to me. Now, with that said, let's also go to Webster to see what Webster considers a profession. Webster tells us that a profession is a principal calling, vocation, or employment requiring of specialized knowledge and often of long and intensive academic preparations. So here we are seeing that profession doesn't necessarily imply mass production, it doesn't necessarily imply a lot of people doing the work, and it's talking about a calling, a vocation, or employment. So it's talking about freelancing, it's talking about working as an employee somewhere. And at the same time, it's telling us that it requires of specialized knowledge. This is not just a line of production, mass production, like in the case of industry, but it's really something that is specialized and that often requires of long and intensive academic preparation, meaning perhaps a college degree, perhaps a lot of preparation for a specific event like we do as interpreters. In my opinion, therefore, my friends, we are not an industry, we are a profession. Yes, there is such a thing as the interpreting and the language industry, but that is not the interpreter himself or herself. That is not what we really do. When we think of the industry, of the interpreting industry, the translation industry, the language industry, we are talking about something else. We're talking about some kind of group of people, of individuals, or of entities that devote themselves to different types of occupations, such as being the providers of the interpreting equipment, perhaps being the ones that work as an agency, hiring interpreters, setting the interpreters together for a specific project, and so on. Or it could be also those groups that get together or those entities that get together and do advertisement, recruiting, and PR campaigns. We see it in some other fields. For example, we see the pharmaceutical industry, we see the medical industry, and so on. Now, as far as professionals, we as interpreters are professionals because we require of an academic preparation, we require of a specific preparation for an assignment, and we can do it alone, we can do it in groups of 2 or 3. It's not mass production, it's not something that implies a line of production where you are constantly doing the same over and over and over again. And we see it in other occupations, in other crafts, in other vocations, as the dictionary says as well. For example, we know about the medical profession, we know about the legal profession. It is not the same, the medical profession or the medical industry that implies pharma, that implies hospitals, that implies insurance companies, and so on. The same way that we are not the same as the interpretation or the language industry. We are a profession. And it's very important, my friends, because your attitude is different when you act and you interact with others as a professional instead of as a laborer. Nothing wrong with being a laborer, but laborers operate differently, are perceived differently, and they deliver a different product or a different service. So we are a profession, we are not an industry, and today more than ever is very important because with the arrival of the artificial intelligence and other high-tech resources to our profession, those in the industry are trying to convince interpreters that we are part of that industry and therefore we are not a profession. And it's very important not to fall for that, because if we fall for that, we are going to be exposing ourselves to be manipulated, to be exploited, and sometimes to be, frankly, abused by the industry. It's not that they are bad people, it's just that they have interests that are not always aligned with ours. Like I always said, they sit across the table from us, not on the same side of the table. So next time you hear somebody refer to you as the interpretation or the interpreting industry, please make sure to clarify to them that there is such a thing, but that's not us. We are a profession. You are a professional interpreter. That's your vocation. That is your academic preparation. That is your preparation for the specific assignment, and not a mass production line. Please always remember that, my friends. We are not an industry. We are a profession. At least that is my opinion. Thank you very much.